the previous dynasty that dominated the NFL, but they're once again finding their footing, and that is the New England Patriots. Yeah, the Death Star has been destroyed, and they're building from the ground up yet again. And instead, they're cooking some mac and cheese down in Foxborough. But looking at things, I don't know. Something tells me that it feels a little moldy. That mac and cheese tastes a little gross. But looking at the 2021 season for the New England Patriots, they ushered in a new era of Patriots football. 2020 was not kind to them at all. It was the post-Brady era, the first year without Tom Brady, who took his talents to Tampa Bay and won a Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Bucks. Meanwhile, for New England, not a great year for Bill Belichick and his litany of quarterbacks. They went 7-9 and missed the playoffs, and they pretty much spent all their money in the offseason. And in that 2021 draft, with the 15th pick, got Mac Jones from Alabama. So think of Mac Jones like Jimmy G, pretty much in the pocket. Got a nice arm, but not too much of a mobile quarterback until they proved me wrong in this season. So in 2021, the Mac Jones era was pretty much off to a shaky start. They went 2-4, but they win 6 straight. They go on this 8-3 streak to end the season. Mac Jones shows some solid flashes of improvement. He still made some rookie mistakes, but he was pretty solid. And the defense played pretty well. But then things got pretty bad after the bye week. They lose the last 4 of their 5, including some critical games to the Colts and the Bills. And they lost out on a chance to steal the AFC East from Buffalo. And when it came time, sure, you clinch a wild card berth after missing the playoffs entirely the previous year. Yes, you get that playoff berth, but now you got to play on the road against the Buffalo Bills instead of the other way around. So you have to go on the road in a 3-match against the Bills where you upset them earlier in the season, and you get your asses whooped. You completely get your asses whooped in prime time. Ow. So not exactly the greatest way to end the season for New England. But you had a young quarterback who showed promise in 2021. You still have one of the best coaches in the NFL. And you had a good defense. So 2022 showed some promise. And if you're the New England Patriots, you still have Bill Belichick. You're pretty much looking for Mac Jones to take that next leap. You want him to be even better going into this coming fall. And looking at some of their offseason moves, I don't really know if they're going to make that next step. Sure, they re-signed linebacker Jawan Bentley, running back James White, receiver Jacoby Myers, right tackle Trent Brown, free safety Devin McCourty, kicker Nick Folk. So basically, the offensive line is still kind of intact, and the defense will still be just as good as it was in 2021. They got a stable kicker in Nick Folk, but they didn't really, compared to last offseason, they couldn't really do much because they spent all that money. Yeah. And then on the in free agency, they committed on the defensive end. They got Jabril Peppers from the New York Giants. They reunited with Malcolm Butler for whatever reason. But then they lost a lot of key players, like really good key players in free agency. They lost their best corner in J.C. Jackson to the LA Chargers. They also lost Kyle Van Noy, their inside linebacker. They also lost their top center in Ted Karras to the Cincinnati Bengals, as well as guard Shaq Mason, who oddly got traded to the Tampa Bay Bucks. So they basically gave Tom Brady his old running mate back. They also lost offensive coordinator. I think this is going to be a big hit to Mac Jones. They also lost Josh McDaniels to the Raiders because he went and accepted the head coaching job. So for the Patriots, these losses could really hinder the offense more likely than not. The defense will be okay, but I think the offense could take a big hit in 2022. Not because of Mac Jones, but I feel like the talent around him. Looking at some of their draft picks, I know people were gonna bash the first pick that they had in round 1, and that was Chattanooga guard Cold Strange. And yeah, he could have been picked in the second round, but I mean, Belichick does okay with the offensive line, so I'm not gonna be too hard on it. They also got a receiver from Baylor, Tyquan Thornton, and they pretty much focused on defense from there on out. So that was some of their key draft picks. So if you're New England, there are a couple of pressing issues. Do I believe that they can still try to compete for a playoff spot? Sure, why not? But you have questions about your receiving game besides Kendrick Bourne, because I think he was the best receiver in their offense, and he had the best chemistry with Mac Jones. I mean, they did get Devontae Parker from the Miami Dolphins because, well, Miami pretty much made him expendable after they acquired Tyreek Hill and Cedric Wilson, and they already had Jalen Waddle and Mike Gesicki, so there's not really much room for Devontae Parker. I just questioned the decision to give him to a division rival. But the problem with Devontae Parker is that he hasn't been able to stay healthy consistently, played at least most of the season for the last couple of years. And with their own crop of talent, Nelson Aguilar and Jacoby Myers were okay, but they haven't really connected well with Mac Jones last season. And the fact that since Rob Gronkowski went to Tampa Bay and eventually retired after 2 seasons, there has been no top tight end in New England between Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith. Yet they spent a shit ton of money on that position. And the offensive line, there's still a couple of questions about certain spots, like the left tackle, center, the other guard spot. Who's gonna start there? Who's gonna be in the rotation? I feel like this offensive line is gonna take a small hit, but hopefully not too much of a hit that Mac Jones is gonna be running for his life every time. But we'll see. Looking at some of their key games in 2022, obviously it's the first one in Miami against the Miami Dolphins. You're gonna be tested very early against Tua, and that Dolphins team could be experiencing some growing pains, but so could the Patriots with their lack of additions or their losses on offense. So it's going to be a big test for Mac Jones against what could be on paper an improved Dolphins team. Then you play the Baltimore Ravens at home against Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, who are going to be gunning to prove that last year they were hurt. They're back for revenge. Then you go play Indianapolis at home a couple weeks later, a potential revenge game from last year against Matt Ryan, who, well, the Colts were technically with Carson Wentz, but this year it's Matt Ryan. And then week 12 game against the Minnesota Vikings in Minnesota on Thanksgiving, the nightcapper. That could be a crucial game depending on where you are. Week 13 could also be crucial when you host the Buffalo Bills on a Thursday night after Thanksgiving. And that could likely determine like whether or not you have a chance against either the Bills, the Dolphins, or hell, even the Jets in the AFC East race or the playoff race. So going into this season, you have to wonder how Mac Jones is really going to do. He lost his offensive coordinator in Josh McDaniels. He didn't really get too much help with the receiving game, and he lost a couple pieces in the offensive line. So how much help is he really getting? Like at the end of the day, how much help is Bill Belichick really giving him? When you think about it, and I just hope that with Mac Jones, he gets a chance to succeed in this offense. But they got to give it to him. They got to give him some help. And I worry a little bit about that defense, but not too much, because, well, they lost a couple of players like J.C. Jackson, but maybe they'll be okay. So for the New England Patriots, I think that they're still a good team, but those losses in the offseason might be a little bit hard to overcome. The talent level might not be as good as it was in 2021. The defense should be okay, but for the offense, like, they didn't really provide Mac Jones too much help. So maybe their best case scenario is 9 wins, at worst 6. Yes, I'm being a little harsh, but just look what Bill Belichick didn't provide him. Mac Jones has almost no proven help. So for New England, you also have a little bit of a rough schedule. So for the Patriots, you're taking a little step back, and who knows if it hurts you in the end.